Real-life stories narrated from the experiences of R2K, Shadows of Doubt. The next morning I woke up feeling like I had barely slept. My body was heavy with fatigue, the kind that seemed to seep into my bones. The night had been restless, filled with fragments of dreams that clung to my mind like cobwebs. I kept waking up, heart pounding, the remnants of fear still fresh as if something had chased me through the night. But I forced myself to push those thoughts away, telling myself it was just a freak dream, nothing more. The more I thought about the previous night, the more determined I became not to let my parents know how deeply this whole situation was affecting me. I didn't want them to dismiss my concerns like my grandmother had done with my father. I needed to be smart about my approach, to gather information without revealing just how obsessed I was becoming with these ghost stories. The tension twisted in my gut, but I kept my expression neutral, hoping they wouldn't notice the turmoil beneath the surface. During lunch, I decided to test the waters. Why aren't we on speaking terms with Uncle's family? What caused so much hatred? I asked, keeping my tone casual as I picked up my food. My dad looked at me, his expression hardening. If we hadn't come back from the Middle East, he would have taken everything. He's after this entire property. He wants the house in his name. So it's a similar story for all families these days, I replied, forcing a shrug, though my mind was racing elsewhere. My uncle wanted this house, but not just for the property, it had to be for the treasure. That meant he still believed it was real. If that was the case, he must have been searching for it all along. He couldn't do a thorough search as long as we were here. He wanted us out of the house, no doubt about it. As the day wore on, I distracted myself by meeting up with friends. For a while, the supernatural stuff took a back seat, buried beneath the noise and laughter. But as night fell and I found myself alone in my room, the thoughts crept back in, clawing at my mind. When sleep finally came, it wasn't peaceful. I was running down the same dark road. The house loomed ahead, familiar and yet strange. The laughter echoed, louder this time, almost taunting. I didn't even consider going through the door. Instead, I searched for the same window, determined to see who was inside. My heart pounded as I crept closer, the unease growing with each step. Just as I was about to peer inside, I heard someone call my name, a voice both distant and near, like a whisper carried on the wind. Then suddenly I was no longer outside the house. I was in my own room, standing by my bed, staring at myself asleep. A chill ran down my spine as I noticed a finger slowly emerging from under the bed, hooking me twice. I gasped awake, my chest tight with terror. The touch. I had felt it for real. My hand trembled as I reached for my phone, the dim light casting eerie shadows across the room. My heart raced when I saw them. Red spots on my leg right where I felt the touch. I didn't know what to make of it. Fear clawed at my throat, and I struggled to breathe as the room seemed to close in around me. Then, a scream shattered the silence. It was my sister. I bolted out of my room, adrenaline surging through my veins. My parents were already running to her, and I hesitated in the hallway, feeling like a helpless child. Minutes later, my dad emerged, his face pale. She had a nightmare, he said, trying to sound calm. She dreamt the moon split in two and fell to the earth, destroying everything, our village, our family. She saw our dead bodies. My mom came out after some time, reassuring me that my sister was fine, that she was back asleep. But I couldn't shake the dread that hung over me like a storm cloud. My sister's nightmare. Was it just a coincidence? Or was it something more? I felt like I was teetering on the edge of something dark and dangerous, and I didn't know if I could pull myself back. I forced myself to go back to bed, but sleep didn't come easy. My mind raced, trying to make sense of everything. The timing, the nightmares, the red spots, it was too much to ignore. But could it all really be connected? Or was I just letting fear get the best of me? I had to stay strong. I couldn't let this break me. But as the minutes ticked by, doubt crept in, whispering that maybe, just maybe, I was already too deep. The next morning, my sister recounted her nightmare to the family. She mentioned that she'd been having strange dreams for a while, but last night's was by far the worst. My parents brushed it off, saying it was just stress possibly triggered by the story my dad had told. But I couldn't let it go. I kept thinking about what had happened to me, though I dared not speak of it. The fear was still there, lurking in the back of my mind, but I pushed it down. I had to stay rational, even if everything inside me was screaming that something was terribly wrong. I packed my bags and left for the hostel, trying to focus on my studies. Days turned into weeks, and gradually the events at home faded into the background. I buried myself in exams and assignments, convincing myself that everything had been a series of freak coincidences. When I returned home after exams, things seemed normal. The holidays came, and I reconnected with my friends. We decided to visit a friend who hadn't been around much, thinking it would be a fun surprise. But when we got to his house, he greeted us outside, looking anxious. After a brief chat, he admitted that he couldn't hang out with us for a while. He was reluctant to explain why, but eventually confessed that something was wrong with his cousin. She had come to stay with them a few weeks ago, and since then, she had been acting strangely. She would wake up in the middle of the night, singing and dancing by herself. Once, she slapped his younger brother, and when his father tried to intervene, she pushed him with unnatural strength. His father was a large man, and the fact that she had knocked him down was terrifying. We exchanged uneasy glances. "She's possessed," one of us whispered. My friend nodded grimly. We offered him our support and told him to reach out if he needed anything. As we were about to leave, he pulled me aside and asked if I could stay back for a while. His family had contacted a guru for help, and the guru was expected to arrive soon. His father had gone to pick him up from the railway station. My friend was scared and didn't want to be alone until his father returned. I agreed to stay, though I was terrified. I stayed outside trying to appear strong for my friend, but inside I was filled with dread. I couldn't bring myself to enter the house and see his cousin's condition. In the back of my mind, I kept thinking about how I had finally let go of the supernatural events at my own home, only for this to happen. My curiosity was rekindled, despite my fear. I wanted to know more. What had happened to his cousin? How had it started? And how was the guru supposed to help her? I realized I was back to square one, drawn once again into the world of the supernatural.